afternoon. I'd like to welcome everybody here for the council meeting on June 27th, 2023 at
11.
Pardon me, or sorry, 11 o'clock. I'm used to the 1 o'clock meeting. And I'll now read our land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge the township of Asphodel-Norwood is located in the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which include Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Alterville, Scugog Island, Rama, Beausoleil, and Georgina Islands First Nations. Township of Asphodel-Norwood respectfully acknowledges the Williams Treaty First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure the health and integrity for generations to come. We'll now invite everybody for a moment of silent reflection to prepare for the council meeting ahead as a gesture of respect and contemplation. I will now ask members of the council to declare any pecuniary interest in any matter before the council to state the interest now or at the time the matter arises. Seeing no hands, we'll move forward to the agenda. I'll ask for a motion to approve today's agenda as circulated or amended. Moved by Councillor Ward. Circulated. Second by Councillor Walsh. Any questions?
I do actually have a question. I noticed the meeting in August is during AMO. Are people away for that? And will we need to reschedule that meeting?
Yes, we will have to reschedule it. Can we chat about it in general business?
Yeah, I just noticed it.
Yep.
All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Approval of the minutes. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the council meeting minutes of June 20th as presented or amended. Councillor Wolf as presented. Seconder, Councillor Hodge Greaves. Discussion. That motion is all in favor. That motion is carried. Onto the consent agenda. I'm looking.
I just need to ask if they have any business arising.
From the minutes, okay, so.
Yeah.
Is there any business arising from the minutes? Previous meeting? No? Okay, moving on to the consent agenda, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent. Approve correspondence for the information from C1 to C5 for the cemetery board, February 15th, and the Trails Committee on May 2nd as circulated or amended. Councillor
With a comment.
C3. C3, Councillor Walsh move, seconder. Councillor War. Go ahead, Councillor Walsh.
I guess it's in regard to the community cares letter. Talking about a surge in need for the programs. I know we do budget funding for another year. Well, that's something that we need to consider in the F-24 budget of potentially raising that amount based on the letter that there's been a surge in need of that program, and it's certainly a vital program in the community.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. We have no delegations today. So we'll move on to R1. Peter, you have the floor.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, this report is regarding the Westwood drainage review. So over the past couple of years, staff have received some reports from the residents of Westwood concerning the drainage, and that it may not be sufficient to carry the flows and may cause some localized flooding. So as a result of that, we included funds in the 2023 budget to complete an engineering review. DM Wills Engineering was retained to complete the review, which included a survey to collect elevation data, site inspections, and a condition assessment of the ditches and sewer infrastructure. The system is comprised of basically two separate systems that flow west to east, or sorry, east to west. And they run parallel to Centerline Road. The system on the north side of the road was installed in the early 1990s and on the south side of the road in the late 2010s. So based on the review and report received from DM Wills, the asset provides positive drainage as intended. And the storm sewer network appears to be draining well, and there was no evidence of collapse or failure. DM Wills noted that those residents upstream of the existing system that have reported periodic basement flooding may be experiencing poor drainage due to high groundwater input in the area. And this includes the drainage area to the east of the Westwood Library. And it could possibly be improved by connecting a system from there to the existing system. So the recommendations from DM Wills in the report or comments, the general evidence does not indicate that the sewers are hydraulically undersized and therefore do not recommend that a capacity analysis be completed. It is recommended that an operation and maintenance plan be implemented, and it is also recommended that consideration be given to extend the existing storm sewer system to the east. So based on the recommendations, staff will implement the following program: complete maintenance such as culvert cleaning and ditching improvements as soon as possible and in the future as needed. Staff will make efforts to include the maintenance work in 2024 under operations. Complete a condition assessment every 3 to 5 years using CCTV video inspection. Determine the requirements for extending the existing sewer system to the east of the library and include funds in a future budget and possibly 2024 or 2025. And then repair the existing system as needed based on the condition assessments. Financial impacts. Costs for the engineering review were completed under the approved 2023 Public Works Operations budget. Maintenance and condition assessments in the future will be completed under current or future Public Works Operations budgets. And if we extend the sewer system, that would be included in a capital budget and a future budget. So in conclusion, staff recommend that the existing system and ditches be maintained regularly as needed under operations. Condition assessments be completed every 3 to 5 years and complete repairs based on those condition assessments as needed. And look into the extension of the existing sewer system to the east of the library in the next 2 to 3 years.
Thank you, Peter. We have a recommendation. The council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood receives his report for information. Councillor Walsh, Councillor Ward, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Serena.
Councillor Ward?
Yes, thank you, Peter. I was just wondering, I had 2 questions actually. So currently this past spring, were there any complaints from residents that they had experienced flooding? Because I think it was a fairly lighter spring runoff. And the second question was, so 3 to 5 years maybe for this capital expenditure for extending, and I know this is ballpark, I don't expect, everything is inflation. Do you have any kind of projected costs of what that would have to be to put into a capital budget? Those are my 2 questions.
Thank you through your mayor. So we didn't receive much in the way of complaints this spring from basement flooding or anything of that nature. It was primarily the winter before when we had a lot of snow and ice. And in terms of a cost for extending the system, I don't have a ballpark figure. We don't really know what this system would comprise of as of yet. So we need to look into that in order to determine an estimate.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, through your mayor, and that's just to build on Council Ward's question. So when we clean those culverts. If a culvert is deemed. You can't clean it up anymore, and it has to be replaced. Whose cost is that? Resident or us?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. It would be the township's cost since it's owned by the township. It's infrastructure that's owned by the township.
Okay. And when we talked expansion down the road, would that be on the north and the south side?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hodge,
Through
please.
you, Mayor. So at the moment, there is no, the water on the east side of the library just goes through culverts. There's no storm pipe, like, there's no culverting, there's no storm sewer on that side. Those
Thank you.
houses.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. It's all drained by open ditch currently. So we could potentially improve that by extending the system to the east.
Because it does exist on the west.
That's right. Yeah,
And, okay,
west of the library. Yeah.
west of the library. Thank you.
Any other questions for Peter? All in favor? That motion's carried. Thank you, Peter. Moving on to R2. Consent application B -34-23 Brown. Go ahead, Ed.
Okay, thank you. Council staff received consent application B -34-23 from the county. From the Peterborough County Land Division, and they require us to submit the municipal appraisal form either to recommend or not recommend. With or without conditions. So this application for consent was submitted to the county by Josh Brown, which is the son of the current owners, Brian and Allison Brown. The consent application is applicable to the lands described as 2191 Asphodel 12th line. Municipal roll number 1501-010-003. 25300, and it's concession 12. And it includes part lots 16 and 17 in the township of Asphodel-Norwood. As per the notice of application for consent, the purpose of the application B-34-23 Brown is to allow the severance of a parcel of land having frontage on 12th line of approximately 286 meters, which is about 938 feet, and an area of approximately 4.2 hectares, which is approximately 10.3 acres. The effect of the application is to create a new rural hobby farm lot. The severed lot meets the rural minimum frontage requirements, and it is staff's opinion, a 10-acre farm allows for a more diverse farming community. Retained lands will have frontage on Asphodel 12th line of approximately 579 meters, which is about 1,900 feet, and have a lot area of approximately 77 hectares, which is about 190 acres. So the retained land meets our current zoning minimum frontage and the minimum area requirements. If the consent application is approved by the county, a condition will be imposed that will require the severed lot to be rezoned from the rural zone to a rural exception zone. And that'll recognize the reduced lot area. The retained lands will not require any zoning changes and will remain rural and environmental protection zones. The county planning department completed a preliminary severance review. And the review indicated the consent appears to conform to the provincial policy statement and the Greater Golden Horseshoe growth plan policies, the county official plan policies, and the township official plan policies. The review also indicated that studies such as natural heritage evaluation, a traffic study, etc., that would not be required. Orca, Autonomy Region Conservation Authority, they've submitted comments and concur with the county's preliminary severance review that the application appears consistent with the provincial policy statement. And the retained, other than they advise that they may require an approval or a permit on the severed or on the retained lands for future site alterations or development. And we have access to the Orca maps, which is they hatch in a certain area, and if you're going to build or do any work in that hatched in area, you require their permits or approvals. And if you are building outside of that hatched in area, then you don't require their approval. And that all happens at the building permit stage. And they also advise that it's not applicable to source water protection policies. We have an attached email that I requested from, or that I got from Josh Brown, the applicant and the owner's son. And he just explained the whole history of it, that his grandfather owned the property way back when. They severed off a 10-acre parcel of land, which is this parcel being resevered today. And that was given to his parents. And once the grandfather passed away, that grandfather's land became his parents', and back, it was a common occurrence that if you own two pieces of land and they were in the same name, they automatically merged together. And so in the early 90s, I seen a lot of these cases, but now you only run into them once in a while where they try to reestablish those lots. But that was a common practice back then, and I'm happy that they don't do that type of thing anymore, because if you buy the property beside you, like, why would you not have two properties instead of, you know, just having one large one? So we've conducted our reviews of everything, the county and township official plans and the zoning bylaws, various policies, the consent application and the notice of application. We attached the notice of application, the consent application, the municipal appraisal form, which recommends the application, and Orca, and the Orca comments and email correspondence from Josh Brown. Relation to the strategic plan, it strengthens our communities, and to me, it creates more diverse farmland parcels of land, which is really good for our municipality. And the county Peterborough Land Division, they circulate the consent application according to the Planning Act, and the application should also be posted on the site. The proposed consent application appears to meet the requirements for a severance. And if you see the municipal appraisal form, we went through it and we ticked off that a rezoning, if approved, a rezoning of the severed parcel to the satisfaction of the municipality will be required. And that'll end up being a rural exception zone. And just to recognize the reduced lot area down to like a little over 10 acres. And that's so that the parents can continue to have a farm, a small farm. And nothing is required for the retained lands. Eventually, at some point in time, the son will build a new home there, and some farm buildings on the 170 acres. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, we'll move on with the recommendation that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report for information, and further that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood directs staff to provide the municipal appraisal form to the county of Peterborough Land Division. Moved by Councillor Ward with a question, second by Councillor Walsh.
Thank you through you, Mayor. Ed, thank you. I like that it's 10 acres.
Mhm.
You know, you
Me
can
too.
diversify the farming with that. And I also like that as part of the succession planning for this family. Like, I think those are two really important parts of this severance. So
I
thank
agree.
you for explaining it so thoroughly.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All in favor of that motion? That motion's carried. Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
You're welcome.
Moving on to parking bylaw 2017-05. Candace?
Thank you, Mayor. So on April 19th and May 5th of this year, representatives of the township, Peterborough County OPP, Norwood Agricultural Society and the Norwood Fall Fair met to discuss logistics in regards to traffic, parking and the parade for the Fall Fair. During discussions, it was determined that the intent was to move forward with the same parade route that we've traditionally seen in the last few years. So township staff have advised, as of the last meeting, we have adopted that road closure permit process. So representatives of the fair have been advised that they will submit an application and follow through with that process. Included in the staff report is a little map there. I'm sure council is aware of the parade route, but that kind of highlights the intent. There will be, it will look a little bit, the road closure will look a little bit different this year. Through those meetings, it was discussed, there will be hard closures. You've seen it similar at the winter market on County Road 45. Peterborough County OPP are requesting it now as far as having hard stops. So you've seen municipal equipment like dump trucks and things like that parked at the ends of the streets where it's closed. So it's a hard barrier, so there isn't a mistake made by a motorist and just happen to go straight through. So it will look a little bit different, but obviously those pieces of equipment or vehicles, etc., they will be removed relatively quickly after the parade in order to open those arteries back up again. It was also determined that parking should be prohibited on both sides of Alma Street while the fair is open. The same bylaw 2017-05 already prohibits parking on the opposite side of the community center. So this will now mirror that, except for it will have a different time restriction. The one that is in place now is in place for the duration of the fair, regardless, morning, evening, night. The opposite side, which would be the community center or curling club side, it would be restricted from 9 to 5. That way it allows onboarding of that building that's there by the people who can come in the morning, they can park there, they can load up their booze and they can take their booze down, and it opens up some overnight parking as well for the residents on the opposite side of the street. The fair board feels that that is a good solution, and there will not be any pedestrian access points on Alma Street. There will be an additional one off of behind the Legion and the medical center property. There's already one there. They're going to add a second one there. And then they are improving, they're not allowing pedestrians to access on Elm Street. They have to come off of King. So other than there will be accessible parking in the high school parking lot, which traditionally we've seen, and obviously those that need to utilize that parking will be able to cross Elm with the assistance of a volunteer who will be posted at those gates. So the bylaw is to establish no parking on Alma Street via fire route, and then no parking on Elm Street, just to support during the fair weekends, just to support that new approach to traffic control and pedestrian control. The approximate costs associated will be absorbed in the operating budget for the township. We'll need to get some locates and put up some signs. If we're not able to utilize utility poles in the correct locations, we'll probably do something very similar where you see them on Alma Street now. It just has the township logo on the one side as you drive up Alma. Then we just flip the sign down or where it has the parking provisions for the fair where it says fire route. So we'll follow the same line. I'll take any questions from council.
We'll pass the recommendation first. The recommendation that the council township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report for information, and further that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood directs staff to present a bylaw to amend bylaw 2017-05 during the bylaw portion of the meeting, and further that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood approves prohibiting parking on the Norwood Fall Fair weekend, Friday to Monday, on Elm Street from King Street to the community center parking lot, and further that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood approves a fire route on the left side of Elma Street from King Street to 100 meters past the entrance to 111 Elma Street from 9 AM till 5 PM on the Norwood Fall Fair weekend, which is Friday to Monday. And I have a mover recommendation. Counselor Ward, seconder. Counselor Hodge Greaves. Any discussion? Counselor Ward,
Thank you, Green Mayor. I think this is pretty thorough. You know, quite a lot, so I don't have any questions. It's all done.
Oh, thank you. Can I just make one clarification
yes,
before we move the motion? The parking spots directly outside of the Legion towards Alma Street, like right on. So basically, it'll start from the Legion sign, the ones that are up against the curling club. It won't include those few parking spots that are owned by the Legion.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
any further questions? All in favor? Motion's carried. Moving ahead, primary development agreement, Candace,
Yes, thank you.
R4.
Preliminary development agreement with HBNG, also known as the Holborn Group. Developments for the County Road 42 property previously known as either the Payne Farm or the Menzies Farm. Again, council has seen these types of agreements multiple times. The intent is just to have an agreement in place for securities to ensure that all engineering, professional fees, legal fees, etc., are borne by the developer. It's very early on in the stages of development. We are getting ready to discuss stormwater management. So it's time to get some securities so that township staff are able to utilize township engineers to peer review the stormwater solutions. And then as we move on down through the development, it'll be functional servicing review, traffic impact studies, et cetera, et cetera. I have included a very preliminary draft concept that the developers have provided that Peterborough County, Orca, and the township utilized during a pre-consultation meeting. So you can see it's proposing 274 units comprised of 25-foot lots all the way up to 50-foot lots, as well as 20-foot townhouses, 27 towns. There already has been some discussion in regards to the location of the stormwater management pond. So I suspect we're going to see some manipulation of the draft concept. We traditionally do, and that's what the peer review process is for, to ensure that all agencies are satisfied. This does not approve the development. It does not secure the township into any sort of approval process. It's simply to collect securities money so we can conduct a thorough peer review at the expense of the developer, not the taxpayer. Thank you.
So we have a recommendation that the council, the township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report for information, and further that the council in the township of Asphodel-Norwood authorizes the mayor and clerk to enter into preliminary development agreement with HBNG Norwood Developments Incorporated for the proposed development at the site known as 155 County Road 42. So moved by Councillor Walsh, second by Councillor Ward. Questions? Councillor Ward.
Yes, thank you to be Mayor, to Candace. Candace, and just to get my head around this, so how is this preliminary development agreement, how does that tie into the other two agreements, you know, coming on Mill Street and the properties? Like how does that all bind in together? What's the process for that?
Sure. So it is the same developer that owns the two parcels on opposite sides of the Mill Street, previously known as the Crowley lands. It's the same developer. So it will be submitted in 3 separate subdivision agreements. So either side of Mill Street plus this one on County Road 42. So it'll be 3 separate applications, 3 separate approaches to the subdivision. That said, we have asked that certain studies be looked at overarching, such as road network, pedestrian connectivity, stormwater management, and traffic impact. So although they will be obviously it's a fair number of homes, all three total 701 units. They're not gonna be tackling that in one go. So it will be, I guess you could state, phased, and each subdivision, so there'll be 3 subdivisions that make up the 701 units. There may even be additional phases within those 3 subdivisions themselves. But in order to ensure that the road networks make sense and that the pedestrian connectivities make sense and the traffic impact is looked at as a whole, we have asked them to now, because all of that stuff's been done for the Mill Street properties in order to get the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. But we have asked them to go back and amend those studies to include an approach that includes the County Road 42 property so that there is some connectivity there. Yeah.
Thank you. That was exactly what I wanted to find out.
Councillor Hotchkiss.
And in terms of the pedestrian and traffic, is that being led more by the developer or is the township coming up with, I know it's listed as 2024 pedestrian connectivity, but is that, should that not be more of a township led thing? Like, what do we want in terms of where do we want the roads to go and where do we want the people to go? Because if we're putting in 700 houses, they need to be able to walk, otherwise we overwhelm our village. So is the township going to be leading that, or is it going to be a reactionary thing to whatever the developer comes back with? Just curious. Like, because we have, it says, is there money in the budget, I guess is my question, for doing a township plan first? What, within our stuff?
Okay, through you, Mayor. So
Yes.
the township it's slated for a 2024 pedestrian connectivity plan, not specifically for the subdivisions, but it's for like the township as a whole.
Yep.
So when it comes to the development, there's certain things that we need to have a fabric of that would be developer led, such as stormwater management. So stormwater is the first piece that has to be determined before we get into determining where our roads can go and where our walkways can go. The stormwater, it can be destructive and cause nuisance to neighboring properties. So once in the stormwater's first, and that's what this agreement will do, get us the money so we can take a look at that. Once the stormwater management pond locations have been determined, all the grades have been determined, then we can take a look at road network and road connectivity. Peter has already gave comments back on the road networks, because we've also asked for connectivity through the Fife land out to Alma Street off of this parcel, which obviously another developer, we have put that on their radar that we want these 2 developments to connect out to Alma, that we don't want there to be kind of dead space there. So I guess to answer your question, yes, there will be township led discussion. There's just a lot of engineering that has to be done first so that we have to work within that envelope. But it has been highlighted that ensuring that residents can get to the community center easily. That is why the township asked for a commercial block on County Road 42. Traditionally, the developer was not proposing that. It is our belief or our intent that that commercial block will draw traffic away from the existing village out to 42 to utilize whatever services that will potentially be on that commercial block, and ensuring that there's ability to walk there, ride a bike there, and drive a car there. So will this plan that's slated in the action list that you're seeing be specifically for this development?
No, that wasn't that,
No.
sorry, that's not what I
Township-wide.
wanted it to be. I
Oh.
think it should be
It's
the
township wide,
township wide,
yes.
so that it's not the developer deciding where we want our roads. That's more, I just, this sounds, yes, you need the groundwater to go where it goes.
Yes,
And then the roads, and then, but the township is looking at improving pedestrianization of the village and township.
and traditionally, that's been the way that it is, like even Norwood Park Phase 1, 2, 3, and coming on 4. They don't build roads where we don't want them to go.
No, I'm just making sure
Yeah, no, we do
that the
ask,
township wants people to be walking.
definitely.
That's more
We
what
don't
I'm
put
asking.
sidewalks on both sides of the street. I know that has been something that has been floated. It's really, it's a winter maintenance. It boils down to we would have to add an additional person and additional sidewalk clearing machine, because basically you would be doing both, it would be doubling it in those areas. But we always have it on one side for sure.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to understand that we were taking a more forward approach.
Yeah, but
And it's in the budget for next year.
it's gonna be proposed, it'll be proposed to council in the budget for the pedestrian connectivity plan, because to be honest with you, we have better pedestrian connectivity in the new developments than we do in the existing village, so we need to connect the old and the new together and the rural to the urban.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? All in favor of the recommendation? Recommendations carried. Moving along to R5,
Thank you,
action
Mayor.
list.
So the action list you'll see. these guys. Coming up in July, so we're heading into summer council schedule, which means one meeting in July and one meeting in August. Unfortunately, it does lean to having larger agendas. So you'll see the landfill closure tender result. We did hear back this week from the MOECP in regards to comments finally on the plan. So we are really hoping, once we kind of delve into all of the feedback that we have received, that we're able to turn it around and hopefully be able to get the tender done, get it closed, and get the recommendation to council July 25th. But regardless, the MOECP is talking to us, so it'll be for sure August 22nd if it doesn't get sewn up in July, which is great news. The data has been conducted and for the Flora Queen County Road 45 Industrial Drive crossings, all of those crossings, and we will be making some recommendations to council on that. Second quarter reports will be coming forward on consent. Crowley zoning bylaw amendment, we are waiting to receive that back from the county in order to do the 20-day circulation period out to the 120-meter buffer around the property. The labels and everything are ready to go. We're just waiting to receive that final documentation to get it in the mail. So it all depends on if we get it back in time to meet the 20-day circulation period. 5-year surface treatment plan. Peter and I met this morning before today's meeting, and I have approved the approach for the surface treatment plan. It's getting ready to go. The asphalt does need some tweaking. Inflation is not being kind, but we're doing our best to put it in something that's realistic that we can at least achieve. Master facilities plan RFP results, cost apportionment agreement with Orca. We received that agreement last year during all of the changes in the legislation to the CAs. And I'm waiting to receive the agreement back that is compliant with today's legislation. So once we have that, then I'll bring it forward to council. I feel it's up to Orca to be able to make those changes. Sidewalk tender results, the sidewalk tender closed and it wasn't kind. It was over twice of budget, like 200%. It was shocking. So township staff have gone back to the bidder, and we are looking at the scope of work, and we'll have something back to council for the 25th of July. And you can see what's coming up there in August and September, and we'll be adding stuff obviously as we get closer to the year, but I'll leave it to council if you have any questions.
So recommendation that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report with the revisions suggested by the CAO clerk treasurer and members of council. Moved by Councillor Walsh, second by Councillor Hodge. Agreed. Discussion. This, just myself, I can't believe that the sidewalks are that much more expensive. Just, but the price of everything has gone up, concrete, you name it, insurance, fuel, all adds up.
Yeah, and we padded the budget.
Yeah.
We just, you know,
Didn't pad it well enough.
well, we feel that
200%.
well, the last, I mean, we would never do that, you know,
No.
in the last 3 years, we feel that we've absorbed increase in diesel, so we've adjusted the budget to absorb the increase in diesel. We've adjusted the budget to absorb impacts of the pandemic. We've absorbed in the budget the impacts of Ukrainian and Russian war and all of the economic warfare that's happening across the world. And we've made those three pretty significant tweaks as we've absorbed those in the last 3 budget years. And then, so I'm not really 100%, so it's this one, I guess, is inflation. So maybe when we absorb this one, we will have absorbed it and we'll have some sort of idea. Budgeting is, it used to be, you could take a 3-year average and then add 5%, and we were always relatively close. And I don't think there's a formula that you could even predict right now to be able to deal with capital, so it's unfortunate.
All in favor of the recommendation? Recommendations carried. No correspondence for action. Council liaison report. Does anybody have anything else they would like to bring forward? I did read the reports at the end. Councilor Walsh.
Yeah, just from the special projects committee, we are all set for Canada Day on Saturday. The studies will start at 12 noon. And in reviewing everything last night, we've got a pretty well-filled packed day for everybody to come on Saturday, and just we could pray for good weather.
Councilor Hodge-Greaves.
I just wanted to mention that on Sunday, July 16th, from 12 until 4 p.m., Norwood Pride is hosting its 5th annual Pride event, and other than pandemic things, at the Norwood Legion. So that's Sunday, the 16th of July, from 12 to 4, Norwood Pride at the Norwood Legion. Thank you.
Anything else, Councilor Ward?
Yes, thank you for you, Mayor. I just wanted to point out in the liaison reports, the dates that will be open at the Heritage Center. And we did have one open date since that, and it was very successful. We had some people in, some donations made, and I'll reach out to Melanie to get those dates so we can post them for the public. So thank you.
Okay, moving along, CAO treasurers list, Candace.
Thank you, Mayor. So the mayor and I met with MPP Puccini yesterday, and we went through a fairly comprehensive list of items, and he's extended his assistance in regards to a few items. One being asking for the next ICIP green stream to include wastewater eligible products, and wastewater was removed. I explained to him that it is $5,600 per unit to take on the 2,119 units of growth that we need to take on for sanitary, where on the water side, it's $165 per unit for the upgrades. So substantial difference. It's much different treating water than it is left. It's more expensive to treat sewage. So really looking for that green stream to be opened back up. We have submitted an AMO delegation request with Minister Surma, Minister of Infrastructure, to pass that message along to her as well, to try to ensure that that stream gets opened up, as well as the request for the province to look at opening a funding stream that incentivize growing communities. So a lot of times, funding streams make growing infrastructure that supports growth ineligible. And it has to be based on age and condition as supported through the asset management plan. Complete merit-based, completely agree with that, but there is 2 problems that we have. Obviously, the deficit in the infrastructure for asset management. But then the flip side to that is sometimes infrastructure needs to be replaced to absorb growth because of capacity issues, not necessarily condition or age. And then what happens in the technical schedules in these application programs is sometimes it's both. And I'll give you a prime example. The sanitary force main that goes up County Road 45 that feeds our main pumping station is over 50 years of age. So it is getting to, to a point where we need to start seriously considering putting some funds away for its replacement. But at the same time, it's going to be triggered for capacity before it's triggered for age, but it's not 10 years old either. It's over 50 years. It's lived over 75% of its useful life. So where does that fall with these funding streams and the eligibility and being able to open that up so that there's some assistance from all tiers of governments to absorb the growth? He took note. He is going to be having some conversations on his end, which is also greatly appreciated. We talked about healthcare, we talked about Highway 7 and safety on Highway 7 and where any potential bypass stands with, didn't have anything to report on that, but he's gonna look into it for us. It was a great productive meeting and he was able to do a tour of some downtown businesses after our meeting before he left. So another great meeting with the MPP, and he was able to come to us this time, where traditionally we travel to Port Hope, so that was also nice. And that's it for me. Thank you.
All right. General business.
Sorry, on the management action list, you had listed that you would talk about Peterborough Child and Family Center.
Oh, and the CIO list,
Yeah.
thank you for that. Yes, my apologies. So we are looking for a solution for them in the libraries. So we've connected, I've met with the librarian and we feel that there is a solution there between the two branches. Either Norwood or Westwood. And we have arranged for the representatives of that organization to tour both branches with the librarian to look at a solution. The Norwood branch has an adult section in the downstairs room, and there is hopes to be moving the adult section out of that and making that downstairs section all children related. So it would be a nice home, even if the library is open, it's still kid friendly, people are coming in there for kids programs, et cetera, it all kind of works together. Whereas right now, there is an adult section down in there, so it may just not be the best mixture, but so the librarian and myself, as well as this organization, are working together and it's looking promising. If I will report back when that's been completely finalized, and I won't be bringing a staff report back officially unless that falls apart. And it does have to come back into one of the libraries or municipal facilities, but the town hall or the Langham room or something where we need to make some alterations to the rooms, et cetera. So thank you for that. Thank you.
It's good here.
Okay.
Yeah. As I was saying, does anybody have any other general business to bring forward?
Thank you.
Councilor Ward?
Yes, it's National Indigenous Month.
Yes.
And it was in between council meetings that it was on the day celebration for the Indigenous communities. But I did come across something with our First Nation neighbors to the south at Alderville, and they're having a Black Oak Savannah tour on July 20th at 10:30 a.m. You have to sign up for them. But the Black Oak Savannah is like a plains grass, and they burn it off. It's been something that's been happening for centuries. It's something that's very interesting. I thought that I'd bring that to everyone's attention if they'd like to do something with our neighbors to stuff the nations of Alderville. July 20th, and you do have to sign up for it. It's 2 days. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. No other general business to discuss?
We need to talk about the August council meeting.
Oh, yes, August council meeting.
Talk about it now instead of in July. So you and I are at AMO from the 20th to the 23rd,
Mhm.
and the council meeting is the 22nd. Looking at staff vacations and who needs to present to council based on my calendar here, bumping it to the following Tuesday, the 29th is,
Works.
I just have a full complement of managers that week. So everybody that needs to come and present would be able to present, where the week before I'm missing 3 out of 5, and we only have 1 meeting that month. So if the 29th works, or at least a date that week works, if no one's away or other
The
plans.
29th is better for me personally than the 15th.
Okay,
I could be away.
29th,
Yep,
That's good for-
okay, and
that's 4 of us, that's good.
1 p.m. in person here.
Okay,
Okay, we need a motion, please.
yes. Can we have a motion to change the date of the council meeting in August, please, from Councillor Hodge Greaves, Councillor Ward. It's, what was it, the dates? It's to the 29th,
From
correct?
the 22nd. From the 22nd to the
22nd.
29th.
Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion? That motion's carried. We have no closed session, no notion of motion, and bylaws. Candace, would you care to proceed with the bylaws, please?
Being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2017-05, being a bylaw for the regulation of traffic and parking on highways and roadways within the jurisdiction of the township of Asphodel-Norwood, be read a first, second, and third time, and numbered bylaw 2023-36.
Moved by Councillor Ward, second by Councillor Walsh. All in favor? Motion's carried.
Being a bylaw to authorize execution of a preliminary development agreement between HBNG Norwood Developments, Inc. and the Corporation of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood, be read a first, second, and third time, and numbered bylaw 2023-37.
Moved by Councillor Hodge Greaves. Moved by Councillor Ward. All in favor? That motion's carried.
Being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood held June 27th, 2023, be read a first, second, and third time, and numbered bylaw 2023-38.
Moved by Councillor Walsh and second by Councillor Hodge Greaves. All in favor? Motion's carried. And that was a future meetings.
That will move the 22nd to the 29th, yeah.
And can I have a motion for adjournment? Councillor Walsh. Councillor Ward. All in favor? Adjournment.